Are you new to Procreate in the iPad Pro, or maybe you've been using it for a while and you're just confused about all the different gestures and shortcuts that are available? Well, in today's video, I'm going to walk you through each and every one of them and show you how you can use them to speed up your creation process. So if you want to learn more, keep watching. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into today's video. Like I said, this video is all about gestures and shortcuts in Procreate. And I thought this video is kind of important to make because in most of my videos that you see here on YouTube, I do not use gestures and shortcuts in those videos. I get a lot of callouts in the comment section, people saying, hey, why don't you do this for a shortcut? It saves a lot of time, or did you not realize that you can do this? And to answer those questions, yes, I do know how to use the shortcuts. I actually utilize the shortcuts in my personal and professional stuff that I do. And there's one simple reason why I do not use them in the videos. And that's because each video could be somebody's first video. Somebody could be new to Procreate and not realize all of the shortcuts. And to actually use them, I would have to repeatedly, say, okay, this is the shortcut here that I'm using. And it would help out those people. But at the same time, for the people that watch every single video, I think that would get a little monotonous. And, I don't want to turn those people off. And at the same time, I don't want to lose, newbies that are coming in and trying to learn from, day one, square one, whatever you want to call it. So that's why I don't use them. But since I do use them myself, I thought maybe other people would like to use them in their own work. There are a lot that save time, like I said, that I personally use that really cut down on my workflow. So that's what today's video is all about. I'm going to break this up into a few different sections so it's easy to follow along. And if you want to skip around, I'll kind of put cards up on the screen so you can know exactly what part of the video we're at. So we're going to do gallery shortcuts and gestures. We're going to do on canvas ones, followed by toolbar ones, and then finally layer shortcuts. So follow along. Hopefully you'll learn something new. So as far as the gallery, let's start out there. The first thing you can do is you can actually change the orientation of your canvas just by twisting on the canvas from this gallery view. So let's take this little Reaper here. If you just pinch this and turn it, it's going to change it from portrait into landscape. Now this is one glitch that I've kind of seen. You see it kind of looks flattened out. Once we click on it, you'll see it actually does go into that landscape view. And then once you go back to gallery, it will be set there. And then you can turn it back here. But it does start with that little squished look until you actually go in. But it does change it. So that's tip and gesture number one. Next thing you can do is you can actually create folders, or what they call stacks. And this is nice if you're working on a lot of different designs. Cleaning up this gallery view, as you see here, I've got a ton of different stacks going on. Really keeps you organized, and you don't have just, line after line of these different designs that you have to scroll through. So to do that, really simple, just press and hold down with one finger until you get on top of another canvas, and then let go. And you'll see it changes that to stack, and it says two artworks, and it's got those stacked on top of each other. And then you can drag other ones in there. Once you've got more than two, it'll actually bring you into the stack. So you're actually inside that folder there. So that's a really nice way to keep organized. If you mess up and you don't want something in that stack, same thing here, just hold down until you get up to the word stack, and it's going to pull it out and then let go, and it brings it back into that gallery view. Another thing you can do too is change the name of either canvases or stacks just by pressing on the name of the stack or artwork here. So it says untitled artwork. Let's click that and change this to flamingo. Same thing here with the stack. You can click that, and we'll just call this folder 1 test. So that's another nice way to keep organized. Let's go ahead and throw this guy back in here. Now the next thing up is previewing and flipping through canvases. So let's say I made a bunch of different versions of this flamingo, trying to get it to look just right. So I've got multiple files sitting here. There's multiple canvases, and I'm not sure which one is the right one. It's too small to see the little changes that I made. What you can actually do is, if you just pinch and zoom out, this will bring up basically a large thumbnail of what your design or your canvas is. And then once you're in that folder, you can actually flip through these until you get to the right one. And then pressing twice actually launches it into the Procreate edit menu. So that is it for gallery and all the different gestures and shortcuts that you can use there. Let's get into the on canvas shortcuts. So let's pull up our Grim Reaper design here. And if you follow along to the channel, these are some of the previous Let's Draw examples that I did, so you might recognize some of these designs. The first one on the canvas that you can do, and I think it's the most widely known one, is just the undo, redo. So let's draw some of these lines. And I know a lot of these gestures you might know, it might be basic, but I've learned not to take for granted what I think people might know or might not know. I was on one of the Procreate groups the other day on Facebook and saw that somebody had posted, hey guys, just in case you didn't know, there's a little dongle that comes with your first gen Apple Pencil, and you can actually use that to plug into the lightning cable to charge rather than plugging directly into the iPad. And, you know, I thought personally common sense stuff that everybody would know, but then the comments started rolling in and people did not realize that. Likewise, there was somebody that didn't realize that you could plug it into the iPad itself, which I thought everybody knew. So like I said, if some of these are super basic, just realize there's other people out there that might not be as advanced and might actually get some use out of these. You know, if you know all these, if you want to skip around, feel free to cut forward past some of these. But stick along for the journey. You might learn something new even though. So 2 fingers, undo. I think, like I said, most people know this. And then 3 fingers is redo. Okay. Now, the one thing that you might not be aware of, if you actually hold down 2 fingers, it will do rapid undo. So this is nice if you make too many wrong strokes or, you know, too many corrections that you don't like, to kick back really quick. It's almost like, you know, using a computer and the keyboard and you hold down that delete button and it clicks back a couple spaces, but then just goes and wipes out everything. That's kind of what this is. And then you can do the same thing for the redo as well. Now, you have to hold down your fingers for a set number of time before it kicks in. If you want to change that, you can. If you go up here to the wrench icon, go to actions, and then go over to preferences, you'll see rapid undo delay is set right there. So you can change how many milliseconds that it takes for that to kick in. If you drop this all the way to 0, it's going to totally turn off that feature. So if you find yourself using it and not really liking it or doing it by accident, you can always turn that off and it's totally gone. So that's it for undo and redo. Next up is cut, copy, and paste menu. This one's super easy to do. 3 fingers, just drag down on the canvas. I use this one all the time. Cut, copy, cut, paste, copy all, paste, copy, and paste. Like I said, one of the easiest gestures to use, just 3 fingers down, and this makes it super fast, super easy, saves you from actually going up into the layer menu and then over to the adjustments. So that one is one that I use absolutely all the time. Next one up is erasing the contents of a layer. So let's go to our color layer here, and this is 3 fingers and just back and forth in a scrubbing motion. And that's going to wipe out the contents of that layer. Now I say wipe out contents because it does not actually delete the layer from the layer menu. It just removes whatever is on that layer. Your layer itself is still there, but it just wipes out anything that's inside that. So that's a really nice quick way to kill stuff. Instead of going up here, clicking on this, going to clear, it saves you quite a bit of time with just those quick 3-finger scrub motions. So that is it for erasing the layer. Next up is zooming and fitting to screen. So pinching out here will bring you in close. I think most people know that, but if you want to get back to a full fit to screen, if you just pinch in really quick and let up, oops, it's going to actually fit that to screen. Likewise, if you pinch out really quick and let up, it's going to bring you back into exactly where you were at, what you were working on. So this is nice if you're trying to get in really tight and detailed, but then you need that full blown up picture, you know, the fit to screen look, and then you see how it looks and, oh, I need to make some more changes, go back in. This is a really quick way to get right back into that area that you are working on. So let's go down to the hand, pull out, back in. You'll see now it goes down to the hand since that was the last zoomed area. So that works really well. I use that one quite a bit. Next one up is the 4-finger tap to hide the user interface or the UI. So 4 fingers and it will clear out all the user interface along the sides. Pressing the button up there will bring it back, or you can do 4 fingers. Honestly, this one I do not use at all, just because that's one reason I love Procreate so much, is because the user interface is so streamlined, it's so clean, it does not clutter up anything. I really don't get rid of it because it does not interfere with what I'm doing. But you know, you might be different and might actually want to use that. So that is how to do that. Next up is the line and shape tools, how to do gestures and shortcuts with those. Let's add a new layer in here. So holding down, when you make a line, gives you the option to make a perfect line. You can bring it shorter or longer just by moving your finger so, and also changing the angle of it and the direction just by holding down your finger and dragging it around. So that is the pretty basic. The extra gesture here is if you drag it, hold down, keep your finger held down, another finger here. This is going to let you move the line around in 15-degree increments. And then you can also, of course, shorten it or lengthen it here. But this is kind of nice because it snaps it to those 15-degree increments. So if your design calls for that, that's a super quick way to do that. Next up is shapes. And with shapes, I don't use the pencil to do shapes because when your lines connect, sometimes you've got some little wonky overlap. The finger seems to work better. So let's go ahead and do a circle. And we've got this ellipse here. Now we can go up to edit shape here, hit circle, and it's going to turn it into a perfect circle. There is a gesture for that though. If you go ahead and make your circle, while you're holding down still, press another finger, and it's going to lock that into a perfect circle. So this is really nice, super quick that you can adjust it so fast. And this also works with other shapes as well. There's our perfect circle. I'm letting up too quick, but it also works with triangles. And then of course you can adjust this as it goes around. You can adjust the size. I've got some overlap there because I'm not being super careful, and it also works with squares as well. So if you do a square here, get a little bit better, and it's going to lock that into a perfect square. So that is a really nice tool to use, saves you from having to go up there, and makes it a little bit quicker, and then you can adjust the size while you're holding down too. So that one I use quite a bit as well. So that's it for the on canvas gestures and shortcuts. Next up, we're going to go to the toolbar shortcuts. So let's say I'm working on a design, and let's turn these back on. And I switch a lot between my brushes and my erasers. Let's say if you've watched one of my previous videos, I use a lot of the natural inker, and then also I'll use a lot of, let's go to the noise brush. So let's say I was doing some natural inker stuff with the brush, then I was going in and erasing with the noise brush, but now I want to use the noise brush as my main brush that I'm coloring with. As you remember, the eraser is set to noise brush. The brush itself is set to natural inker. As long as you're on the previous one, we're on eraser here. If you hold down on the brush, once we click on this now, it's going to switch to whatever we were on over here. So now I'm on noise brush with my regular brush. This saves a ton of time because you've got, you know, your brush library over here with your main menu, then you've got your extended menu over here. It takes a long time to flip through all those. And if you're trying to work quick, this is one of the fastest ways to kind of hot swap back and forth between those. So I use that one quite a bit as well. Next up is dragging and dropping color. This is what I think a lot of people know about as well. It's basically kind of like the paint bucket tool. Let's change this to a red so we can see it. And let's go to our lines. And if you just grab the brush or the color over here, drop it in, and it's going to fill in everything inside those lines. Now, one thing I see a lot of people having problems with is when you're filling in lines, you'll see this isn't going clear to that edge of that ink line. You've got this kind of white jaggedness to it. So the reason for this is because the color drop threshold is set really low. If you'll notice, when you take your color over here and drop it. If you hold down, do not let up, it opens up color drop threshold up here, and it's set at 1.6% right now. So if you slide to the right, this is going to make this a larger percentage. You can get all the way to the 100 mark, and it's going to fill in the entire screen, which you don't want to do, obviously, but get it right up to the 100 mark, and then drop it back down, and it's going to give you a nice edge-to-edge fill. So if you are getting those white jaggy lines, that is why. Adjust that color drop and you will be golden. It will work perfectly. So that's it for dragging and dropping that. The other thing that you can do as well, we've got red here. Let's go to a nice blue color and let's drop this in. Now, obviously, when you're over here on the canvas to select a different color, you can actually click and hold down, and this is going to select that red color. If you want to hold back down here, it's going to select blue. Now to hot swap really quick back and forth between those, if you just hold down this, it's going to switch back to red. Hold it down again, it's going to switch back to blue. So holding down here, it goes to your last used color. If you're making adjustments really fast between different colors, this comes in super handy. It's going to save you a ton of time by just using that to switch back and forth really quick. And I highly recommend using that if your design calls for it. Let's go ahead and clear these out. And that is it then for the toolbar. Let's go ahead and go into the layer shortcuts now. So let's get back here to where everything is on. All right, we are good. All right, so first things first is pinching to merge layers. So let's say we want layer 2, layer 5, layer 4, and layer 3 all as one layer instead of separate ones. We're good. We're happy with, what each one contains, and we can merge these together. To do that, just go one finger on the top. I usually use my thumb for the bottom and just pinch these together like so, and they're going to merge into one layer. Now, this is really helpful if you're using one of the regular iPads or the iPad Airs, to where you've got the lower amount of RAM and you're not getting as many layers. If you're confused about this, I break down all the differences between the different iPad models. So if you see that maybe in my videos, I've got more layers than what you have, go watch that video and it'll explain exactly why you might be seeing less layers. So this is a good layer management tool. If you are filling up, you can combine these, merge them together, and then that's going to free up extra layers to do other stuff. Now keep in mind though, once this is done, you cannot edit those layers separately. They're now all one layer. So definitely make sure that you've got those exactly like you want, you're happy with them, and you're not going to be able to make any changes or adjustments after that. It's all going to be one. The other option here is you can swipe to the right, and that's going to select multiple layers. So this is really nice. I use this quite a bit. Let's say, for instance, with this Grim Reaper design, I wanted to add a tombstone here in the background, but Grim Reaper, he's pretty big, fills up the entire screen, so I need to shrink him down, but I don't want to merge all the layers because I might want to go back in and maybe adjust this highlight layer, or I might want to adjust this shadow layer. So what we'll do is select the layer 2 and then just swipe to the right, and it's going to select all these. If I go up here to the arrow, it's going to let me actually adjust this down, and I can move him out of the way down here. So that gives me room for a tombstone here, maybe, background and some trees. But you see, going back into the layers, I still have each individual layer. I did not lose any of that information. So that's really nice to be able to make adjustments, to move things around on the canvas, but not have to actually merge them all together and lose each separate layer. So that one I use probably more than anything else, just making adjustments and adding stuff as I go along. And that one's probably one of the, like I said, the most used ones that I actually do. Next thing up, swiping to the right was that. Now let's swipe to the left. This is going to bring up the lock, duplicate, or delete menu. I think this one is pretty straightforward, not so much of a shortcut, but just to show you what the differences do between the two. The next actual shortcut is show you just tapping once, of course, on the layer brings up the layer menu. So that's just a one tap. But if we go in and actually two finger tap the layer, that's going to bring up our opacity. So this lets us adjust that with the slider. And I use this one a lot. And the reason being is to adjust the opacity. Usually what you'll do is you'll go in here, you'll have to click on the blend mode over here. So that little N right here, you click on that, and that brings up the opacity here. Now, if you notice, you're not saving a lot of taps. Here, I'm tapping once and sliding it. And with the shortcut, I'm tapping once with 2 fingers and sliding it. But the reason why this one actually comes in handy is because here you have to hit directly on that blend right there. You have to hit that N right on the head. So you've got to be pretty precise with it. With the 2-finger tap, you can hit anywhere on the layer, and it's pretty quick because it just lets you kind of go and do it without having to get so exact of where you're hitting. So that one comes in handy and definitely saves you from having to track down exactly where to touch on that. So that's it for the opacity. Now that was the 2-finger tap. Next thing we're going to do is a 2-finger hold on the layer. And this actually selects the contents of that layer. So usually what we would have to do in a case like this, select the layer here, hit select up here, and that's going to select the layer. So just by using a 2-finger tap, that's going to actually select the contents of that layer. That one comes in handy and it's a lot faster than going through the regular steps. And then last but not least is Alpha Lock. So Alpha Lock allows you to basically color on the contents of the layer that you have. So usually for Alpha Lock, we would have to press it and then go to Alpha Lock. And then that allows us to color in. I'll get a different color so you can see it a little bit better. That allows us to color in and not go outside of what is already on that layer. So the gesture shortcut for this, instead of clicking that and going to Alpha Lock, if you just slide to the right with 2 fingers, that's going to turn Alpha Lock on and off. A 2-finger slide to the right. Let's clear this back out. Okay. And then last but not least is the gear menu up here. Let's go to actions and preferences. If you go to gesture controls, you can actually control every single gesture that I just showed you and make it your own. It's fully customizable. I'm going to go ahead and go in here and go to general and reset these defaults. So this is how it's going to look straight with a fresh install, or if you've never messed around with anything. You'll see a lot of these aren't actually turned on here, so there's nothing adjusted. The eyedropper is the first one where you'll see that there are actual changes being made. But the one I really want to talk about is the quick menu. I use this one quite a bit. And like I said, this is also fully customizable. Personally, with the quick menu, I like to set it to tap the little rounded edge square that is between the brush size and the opacity of the brush over on the left-hand side of the screen. You'll see when I turn this on, though, the eyedropper is already set to this, so it's going to bring up that little error icon. That basically just tells you, hey, something in this grouping is already using that. We're going to go ahead and turn that option off for you, but just so you know, changing this is going to change that. So when you go to the eyedropper, you'll see it turned it off for us, and it lets us use it over here. But let's go ahead and go back then to the canvas, and we'll go ahead and press the button there, and you'll see this is the quick menu that comes up. It gives you 6 different options. Right now, no layer, layer opacity, no action, copy, merge down, clear layer is what's set right now. These are fully customizable as well, so if you hold down on these, it actually brings up the set action menu, and you can change each of these 6 to any of these set actions that you want. So with this, I would just honestly recommend you playing around with it, seeing what suits your workflow the best, what you like the best to have these set to, and what you're going to remember. Kind of develop that muscle memory so you can do this pretty quick, and it's going to save you a lot of time in the creation process. So that is it. Gesture controls were the last thing. So that's been it for gestures and shortcuts in Procreate. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully you found it informative. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Now, today's video, I walked you through all the different touch gestures that you can use for Procreate and all the different shortcuts. But did you know you can actually use keyboard shortcuts as well? To be fully honest, I do not use keyboard shortcuts. I have a keyboard for my iPad, but I only use that for surfing on the web or when I'm typing in stuff. I don't like to use it with Procreate or any of the art programs, but I want to know, do you guys use a keyboard with Procreate? Do you use those shortcuts, or do you just stick to these gesture ones? I really want to know, so leave a message down in the comments, let me know. Also, after this video, if you haven't yet, hop on over to Facebook, join Keep Creating, the Learn, Draw, Share art community. It's a place where you can meet new people, people are showing off their artwork, giving feedback, getting feedback. It's a really cool place to be, having a lot of fun over there. So join, the link is in the description below. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.